Landlord attached GPS tracker to my car without my consent or knowledge. Hello. A little background. My partner and I were getting the spare tire to my car unmounted from the bottom of the car when he discovered a circular magnetic device attached to the lip of the bumper of the car. We initially couldn't tell what it was, but after using Google Lens, we discovered that it was a land-air-sea tracking device. When we discovered this, we were obviously worried, but I was especially worried because I had been stalked and attacked by an ex in November of last year. Thinking it belonged to him, we filed a police report and had them find out who the owner of the tracker was. To our surprise, the tracker was purchased by our landlord of about 3 years. Apparently, he has been checking our location periodically, and the device was live when we found it. It came as a huge shock to us because he seemed like a genuinely good person who has a family, and who even helped us install floodlights and curtains to our home after I was attacked. The police have been trying to contact him to get some answers, but he has not returned their calls. It has only been a day though. Other than feeling unsafe in our own home, we also feel like it was a huge invasion of privacy and honestly, a breach of trust. Again, our rapport with him seemed good, and he seemed like a family man. So we just want to know what the future of our housing situation is going to be. I live in Oregon, so I know that there can be a case made in criminal court. My main question is, would I be able to sue him? Sorry if this seems all over the place, but I found this all out today, and am still processing what is happening. Any advice would be much appreciated. Update. Wow, I can't believe it has been almost a year since I posted this. A lot has happened between now and then, and I could write a novel about these updates, but writing is not my strong suit, so I apologize if this update seems relatively brief. It's a long update, but a lot of things happened. So, as some commenters guessed, it was my ex, who attacked or assaulted me in November of 2022, who attached the GPS tracker to my car. My ex, from what I remember, used Reddit a lot, so I had to wait to give these updates. Did I mention that he was an ex that I haven't talked to in over 8 years? Anyway, the way he was caught and his behavior following being caught is absolutely unhinged. I posted this the day after the cops showed me that the GPS tracker was registered under my landlord's name, but it soon became very clear that my ex had used my landlord's identity to try and cover his tracks. And he almost got away with it. He put my landlord's name and address as the information for when you register the land-air-sea tracker. The cops showed up to my landlord's home and essentially questioned him about the situation. Obviously, my landlord had nothing to hide, so he answered their questions, allowed them to search his wallet for any associated credit cards and his phone for any associated numbers. He obviously came up clean, and that's when the real investigating started. The tracker was linked to a track phone that my ex must have been using as a burner phone. It also requires you to make monthly payments via credit card, but he would use a prepaid Visa that had no name, identity associated with it. He probably also paid cash for these prepaid cards. So all of this covering up. And you know what got him? A woman's voice. Thankfully, the police officer investigating the case took every avenue to catch him, which included setting up a mini sting operation. Since the only lead was the track phone, the officer had a female colleague call the phone number to try and bait him. The call went a little something like this. Hi, is this so-and-so? Him. Yes. Who is this? Her. This is so-and-so from blank bar. We met the other night, and you gave me your number. I just wanted to see if you wanted to hang out sometime. Him. Oh yeah, I remember you. We should definitely meet up. And so on. They believed that the voice recording itself was enough evidence for probable cause, but they wanted to get him meeting her in person to really solidify the PC. They were texting back and forth for a while, but I think he eventually realized that it was too good to be true and that the GPS monitor was no longer going anywhere other than the sheriff's office. He must have put 2 and 2 together and stopped, but not all hope was lost. The cop got voice verification from me and one other person that could verify that it was his voice. He was arrested for identity theft and illegally affixing a GPS monitor to my car. Both can be considered a felony since I had a protective order against him. The process of arresting him and indicting him was no walk in the park though. They gave him the opportunity to turn himself in instead of being arrested by an officer or being picked up. Well, when he realized the trouble he was in, he checked himself into a mental hospital, which was a loophole for him to not be taken into custody, and which meant a mountain of paperwork and work for the DA's office to get charges seen before a grand jury. My experience with the nightmare that going through the DA's office could be a whole other thread, but I will spare you the heartache. The grand jury eventually indicts him on both counts, and I awaited trial. That should be the end of the story, right? Wrong. Not even 2 months after he is indicted, I see him outside my house. I was driving home from a date night with my partner, and we took a different road than we would normally take home because we saw some cute ducks in a neighbor's yard, and it caused us to take a detour. Well, thankfully we detoured that day, because as we were about to near the corner of the road we live on, we saw him. It was broad daylight, and he wasn't even trying to hide his identity, it seemed like. In fact, he just looked like a normal guy walking around the neighborhood. At first, I thought I was just seeing things because I didn't think he would be that careless to be that close to my house after everything. He had a no-contact order against him that requires he not be within 500 feet of my home or vehicle, which he was within. As we turn the corner and I start noticing him, he notices us and immediately turns himself, so his back is facing us and just kind of pauses, acting like he's looking at something, probably hoping we don't notice that it's him. I tell my partner to stop the car, and when we stop, he starts speed walking in the opposite direction of where our car was headed. We circled back around to verify that it was him, but at that point, he had disappeared into the bushes. We slowly start to head back towards the road we live on, trying to see if we can spot him. As we keep going, he pops out of the bushes about 10 feet ahead of us, makes direct eye contact with us, and then starts sprinting up the road. We head in his direction to try and get pictures of him. We are able to get 2 blurry pictures of him, but probably not enough to verify completely that it was him. I filed a police report and talked to his PO about what happened. The PO had him come in and get a GPS monitor anklet pending investigation. I also reached out to the cop that helped me with the GPS tracker and assault case. He helped me go to every neighbor's house and ask for video evidence of the creepy Stalker X. Some neighbors didn't answer, other places didn't have anything, but the place with the bushes? They had a picture and video of him, clear as day, crouching in their bushes. Needless to say, he is currently in jail facing multiple charges against him. I want to delve into more detail about the justice system and my grief with it, but for now I will just end on a positive update. Thank you to those who gave me advice and showed actual concern. To those who commented that this was an ad for the Land Air Sea tracking device, piss off. I also want to acknowledge the cop who has been helping me ever since I was first attacked. He saw me right after I was assaulted in 2022 and saw how shaken up I was. He went out of his way to do a sting operation on the GPS tracker, and he went door to door to find video evidence of my stalker. I don't think the average cop would do half the work he has done, and I will be forever grateful for that. Starts off like some shady landlord drama, but then it turns into a nightmare where her ex from almost a decade ago is stalking her. What gets me is how desperate and cunning this guy was, using prepaid cards, fake registrations, and even checking himself into a mental hospital to throw everyone off. Like, who does that? It's been years. Move on. Do people actually go this hard? The absolute creepiest bit is him lurking near her house after getting indicted, just chilling in the bushes like it's no big deal. That's next level obsession. That man is very dangerous. It's a scary reminder of how unhinged stalkers can get, but props to the officer for staying on it and actually helping her out. I found out my husband is obsessed with our boss's daughter, and I have no idea what I could do or how I should proceed. Throwaway account, because I don't want people following my main to know about this, at least not yet. For some context, my husband, 34, and I, 29, work for a small RMG firm here. We were both recommended through a relative of mine. I've been working here for about 6 years, my husband for about 7 years. During that time, our boss would occasionally bring his then teenage daughter to work. She was around 15 when we first met her, and had her interact with the employees to show her what we were doing, how things work, etc. Fast forward to January of this year, the boss brought her in officially, letting us know that she would be taking over a good deal of his work, overseeing things. We were initially hesitant, considering she was so young, turned 20 this year, but ultimately she wasn't taking over, more so learning to handle the business while the boss managed other work. I suppose it helped that she was very keen on cooperating and taking advice, often holding meetings to discuss things, and making sure she was the last to leave work almost every time. It's been an overall good development in that regard. The issue started a few months after she began. She would occasionally hold office events to lighten the mood, which earned her a lot of praise from all of us, since it's not something the old boss would have had time to look into. We were all talking about her, so it didn't feel too weird at first when my husband joined in on the praising. How impressive it is that she's so young but so mature. How she's been a breath of fresh air in the office. Everyone's so motivated to work because of her, etc. With hindsight, it seems like that was just his in to talk about her with me in general. Every now and then, he'd start singing her praises when we were at home, a huge talking point always being how she's so mature for her age and understanding, even pointing out how we weren't like that at that age. I didn't take it to heart until one time I joked that it was fine if he was immature at times, and that I would love him regardless. His response was something along the lines of, "Well, you were too unlike her." That was the first time I felt bad, because it felt like he was actually comparing me to her now. But I tried not to think too much about it. This slowly spiraled, going from talking about her maturity to her looks, how she can still look good while being so busy with studies and work, how she, and I quote, was definitely more gifted compared to other girls. Out of insecurity, I asked if he thought she was prettier than me. He gave me "Of course you're attractive to me, but objectively, like, not considering my attraction to you, she is prettier." This messed with me for a while, and we ended up having a fight where I essentially banned him from bringing her up with me if it wasn't work-related. Also, adding to it was the fact that he started taking extra work every now and then and working overtime. While I initially thought it was to earn extra money, I later found out it was simply because he knew she usually heads home late too, usually after most, if not all, office employees left. Fast forward to a few days ago. It was the weekend. My husband was out with his friends and my laptop was at the repair shop, so I used his laptop without his permission. We're relatively free with each other's devices. We never have a reason to use each other's devices, but if we did, the other didn't mind, so I didn't think much of it. I had put on some videos on autoplay as background noise while I did some work. When I opened his PC folder, on the left quick access bar, there was a folder with our boss's daughter's name. I had to click it, and when I did, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A folder with over 1,000 pictures of her, screenshots from Instagram and other apps, any and every picture he could find of her, and an insane number of pictures taken without her consent, like with either a hidden camera or his phone at the office, ranging from her just sitting or working, to some from a high enough angle to get cleavage or down blouse, and even a few under-the-table shots, though those didn't have anything to show, from what I had seen. This creeped me out beyond anything, since it was almost impossible to place my husband, who I've always known as the sweetest guy for the 6 years we've been married, as someone who would do something like this. I was shocked and didn't really know how to react, whether I should feel disgusted, sad, or angry. I didn't know. But then it got worse. I used the search function to look up her name on his laptop, and found something that turned any sorrow or sadness I might have felt into pure disgust. He had a folder, poorly hidden deep in several layers of folders, full of Photoshop pictures of her. Some solo, some with him, some with other office members, and some just absolutely vile and disgusting. I deleted all traces of me having seen or searched for those, though I doubt it was necessary since my husband isn't the most tech-savvy to begin with. I took a picture of some of the stuff I found and left the laptop. I was furious, but didn't want him to know yet. So I acted normal that night, and the next day I called my cousin. She was pregnant and her husband was away, and asked if she needed help, using that as an excuse to move in with her for a bit. I've talked to my husband, though limited, mostly through texts and occasionally at work, but for the last 4 days I've been living with my cousin. Honestly, I'm disgusted, but I also don't know what to do exactly. I feel a mixture of being cheated on, which I know he didn't do anything with her, but still, I can't explain it. On top of that, I feel disgusted that my husband was this sort of man. Even talking about it to my friends or family feels weird. I tried to share with my cousin, but the embarrassment didn't allow me to say anything. I just don't know what to do right now. I can't stay here forever. I'll have to head back sooner rather than later. But I also don't think I can just go back home and pretend none of this happened, or that I didn't see any of this. So, I thought this was the best way to stay anonymous and ask for some form of advice. What should I do and how should I proceed? Update. A lot happened in the course of a few hours. I wanted to wait a few more days to cool off and then do whatever was needed, but some of the comments had me worried. If he got an idea and deleted everything, if he did something harmful in the meantime, or, as my friend pointed out, if he somehow, as unlikely as it might be, found the post and put 2 and 2 together. We ended up going over around 4 p.m., knowing we'd have a few hours to collect whatever we needed. I made sure to copy everything in the 2 folders to a flash drive and took a video of it being from his laptop too, in case that was needed. Then, as another comment suggested, we looked for my name, which came up with nothing but regular pictures and stuff. After that, my friend asked me to look up coworkers' names, and when I did, that hit some results with 4 other coworkers' names, all women, but none to the same extent as the boss's daughter. Like, between the downloaded pictures, creep shots, and edited pictures, all 4 of them combined didn't match hers. All the folders were hidden the same way, inside a few layers of new folders, like one folder inside another, up to about 8 or 9 new folders. We took those too. Then my friend pointed out that some of those might be files he received, since the file names were different, and some were similar to WhatsApp files, as she pointed out. This is something I hadn't noticed, but the edited files were definitely named differently. Some being daughter's name plus porn action, and others just being something like IMG number, and then Western Australia 0014 or something along that line, which my friend said are pictures he received on WhatsApp. We confirmed that they were indeed received from WhatsApp in the picture information. This ultimately made me do something that I shouldn't have done since it could have blown up in my face. But it made me anxious and I needed answers. So I asked my friends if they would stay until my husband got back. They agreed, and I decided to take that time to pack my bags, just the necessary things for now. My friend said he was logged into Facebook, but didn't want to check his Facebook without me, and by the time they told me that, it was already time for him to come back, so we decided not to do anything. We waited and waited until he finally came back. He was surprised to see us, but didn't seem to suspect anything. I told him to sit down. He did, and I think that's when he noticed his laptop on the couch and asked what was going on. I told him I saw some things related to the boss's daughter and that I wanted an explanation. He tried to get angry at first, but quickly dropped that act. I told him I wanted to hear what he had to say and then decide what to do. He said he was fine talking, but only if my friends waited in the dining room or another room, as he wanted to explain things to me alone. My friends were hesitant, but I told them it's fine, and that if they heard any issues to send the drive link to the boss. This was a bluff that I wish I had thought about before he came, but I told him that I saved everything on a Google Drive and wouldn't hesitate to send it to the boss if he tried anything. He assured me he wouldn't act up and asked me what I wanted to know. At that point, I really wanted to hit him, just the look on his face. He looked guilty, like he was looking for excuses but failing or something, I don't know, but I really hated it. I stayed calm and told him I saw a lot of things, including all the pictures of her, the edits, and a few other things I asked him to explain. He kept asking me exactly what I wanted to know, and it was becoming obvious that he was either stalling for an excuse or trying to see how much I knew. I finally told him that I saw the pictures, the hidden cam pictures, and even the edits. He pleaded with me not to get mad and to hear him out. I told him I'd consider it. He took a minute and told me that he had noticed he was growing more and more attracted to her sexually, and he apparently struggled with these emotions a lot, which is why he did that, and that he wanted to release his tension without harming anyone, which is why he made those and kept it to himself. I then asked to see his WhatsApp, and the color on his face almost drained. He told me I knew he didn't use WhatsApp, but I told him I had checked his Google Play to see what apps he had installed. Another lie, but I was sure he was using WhatsApp, so I went with it. After a bit, he handed me the phone and told me not to overreact. I took his phone and searched around for a bit. He has a lot of pointless apps downloaded, and it was hard to spot, especially since it wasn't even on the home screen, but in a folder file inside the slide screen thing Android has. On the 3rd page, sorry if the explanation confuses you, I opened it to find just one group chat with 3 other colleagues, members of the team he's in, basically. And it was filled with pictures of this girl, creep shots taken from different areas, zoomed in for the most part from today, like literally a few minutes before he handed me the phone. A lot of conversations in Bangla about fantasies on how they would have fucked her. Scrolling up, it kept getting worse and worse. I won't go into details on the specifics, but a lot of it was about wanting to force themselves on her as a revenge on the boss kind of thing, but with her acting as the boss, and some were even full-on, well-thought-out scenarios where they played out what they do and what not. If you ever read something and just felt pure whiplash, that was me at that moment, literally unable to process it properly. He kept apologizing, telling me he loved me, and that this was all just to keep himself in control, and that it was ultimately just harmless fantasizing. I only caught bits and pieces of what he was saying before turning on the screen recorder and scrolling, recording the conversations, and the more I scrolled up, the more vile it got. The conversation did predate my husband joining, it seemed, but that didn't really matter. He was very actively taking part in it. I got a good chunk of it, but it didn't seem to end, so I went to the chat media, and even that was a huge scroll of pictures, creep shots from phones, fakes, etc. I ended up getting as much as I could and sending it over to myself, making sure it's saved on my phone. All the while, he kept begging me to forgive him and not ruin his life and career. Sorry, and I quote, our life and careers. I told him I felt betrayed, and I told him I was disgusted at the man he was. Through his apologizing, he kept insisting it didn't really hurt anyone. But I told him it hurt me, and if she found out, it would hurt her too. And he simply pleaded with me not to tell her. For a while, we just cried. For different reasons, I presume. But the entire time, he kept switching between how he's sorry and he loves me, to how it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be, and how they were just messing around online and weren't hurting anyone. My friends checked in on me a few times, but didn't interfere. After a while, I pulled myself together and told him that I don't see myself staying with him and that I want a divorce. He pleaded with me not to do so, but I simply said that I didn't want to listen to his excuses. I then told him that I wanted to take the laptop, and he froze. I was half expecting him to reject me, but he simply begged me not to show this to the boss or the daughter. I told him I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, which was a lie, and that I'm thinking it over. I told him not to delete the WhatsApp conversations or tell the others, and that if he does, I will send everything to the boss. Ultimately, I want to talk to the daughter first, and then decide what to do and how to tell the father. But that will have to wait, I guess. There was a bit more pleading, and I left it at, I don't know what I want to do, I need to think it over, and I will let him know, and told him not to contact me in the meantime. That was all we said, as we left with his laptop. I do hope he doesn't alert his friends, but even if he did, it wouldn't matter since the screen recording has their names and numbers on the group chat, and a huge chunk of the stuff they said. The thing is, since nothing physical happened, I know the police won't take it seriously 90% of the time, with the only possible time they might take it seriously is if the girl herself took action. So, I intend to give her all of what I have, and let her proceed with whatever actions she chooses to take. I do wish I had waited to talk to lawyers before taking things this far, but the fear and emotions had me wrapped up, and I just ended up taking action. It seems to have worked out, but I don't know. My husband seemed pretty defeated today, but considering how little it feels like I know him, I honestly can't tell with him anymore. I will see how things play out, and maybe do one final update. But, from my understanding, things will probably just end with a divorce and him getting fired. Still, thank you all for the help, even just snapping me into action. When we were leaving, he was basically sobbing and begging for forgiveness, or claiming how it's all just a mistake and nothing actually happened, to the point where I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But I don't think I can feel sympathy after those chats and whatnot. My friends were also there to remind me that regardless of what he says, his actions are not for me to forgive. Right now, I don't really know what to feel. My mind's a bit of a mess, and things are processing weirdly. Apologies in advance if some of this is incoherent or feels like there are blanks in between stuff. Trust me, there are blanks in my head too right now. A few things I want to specify. On the post, some people took the he's not tech-savvy bit as though he isn't good with tech at all, which isn't the case. I think of tech-savvy as being great with tech, and that's what I meant, that he's not that great, but he is still decent. We work in our MG offices. A lot of our work is with Modaris, Photoshop, and Illustrator, and he is decent with them. I just meant that in the sense that he's not the type to hide folders or passcode protect stuff, if that makes sense. Second, hidden cam was less about an actual hidden camera and more about the style of it. Most of those pictures were taken via phone and, as we now found out, multiple phones from different people. Third, some people thought she was a minor. She isn't. She is 20 as of this year. But that still doesn't change the fact that he knew her when she was a minor and that they started this when she was 19. Fourthly, I've been going back and forth about who to tell exactly. While she is still young, she is strong, and as much as I hate to say this after hearing it from my husband for so long, she is mature for her age. As she's directly involved, I think it's only fair I tell her and let her decide who she wants to share these with. I've made attempts to reach out, preferably outside work, and I'll let her decide how she wants to approach everything from her side. Fifth, am I worried about my job too? A bit, for a few reasons. Firstly, because my husband and I were both recommended by my relative, and now, all of a sudden, that changes to someone my relative recommended creeping on the boss's daughter. Secondly, because I will be technically the ex-wife of the guy who stalked her to her and the boss, so that's something to worry about too. But regardless, I think it's still the right decision to make. Lastly, about the divorce, I'm worried for sure, but we don't necessarily have a joint fortune, and most of our finances are our own, with a very small fund saved up that we usually keep for trips and stuff. I personally think I have enough proof too. But still, I will get legal counseling within the next few days, preferably before things blow up in his face. I'm currently staying at a friend's for a few days while I look for a new flat. I wanted to move in with my parents for a bit, but my gut is telling me that's the last place I should go once the news breaks. Update 5 days after original post. I think this will be the only update. I saw a few people asking for updates before, but I honestly needed some time to myself and wanted to see how things played out before making an update. As I said in the last edit and some of the comments, I ended up going to the boss's daughter. I showed her everything I had and told her I had the laptop too if she needed it. I could tell it was a lot for her to process initially, but she said she's used to stuff like this. Yeah, fuck this place, honestly, and composed herself. Afterward, she asked if it would be fine for me to help her go through the screenshots, screen recordings, and pictures, since she'd rather not have to check the details herself, and I agreed. We sat at a local food chain and wrote out a detailed HR report. Not a report to HR, but a report formatted as if from HR regarding that team. I went over the different aspects of the texts caught on the screen recordings, the edited pictures and the creep shots of her. She reassured me that I won't be facing any consequences for this, and to leave talking to her father to her. She asked if I would be willing to go to the police station if called, and I said I would. She concluded that while in other places this could have been used to better punish them, there's a high chance this won't do much here, other than maybe a few days' worth of jail but that she would still go to the police, as this could be a good way to ensure that if they ever considered doing something, this could be used to screw them over. As for their jobs, she said she would keep them for a few days while the filing and reports worked their way up, then fire them on the spot with no reference or experience certificate, basically rendering any attempts to show work experience at this company impossible, and should they try, future hires will be sent the HR report we built. We concluded the meeting there with her telling me not to worry, and to just not interact with them at work. After that, I spoke to a lawyer and showed him everything I had. While he took a small bit, he said things can be done relatively easily. The thing is, it's not like my husband and I have much joint property or wealth, so there wouldn't be much of a dirty breakup financially. From the looks of things so far, at least, things seem to be going in my favor. My husband called a few times and texted to see if I would reconsider, but I blocked him more or less. I didn't want any part of his bullshit, honestly. This is where the shit storm I mentioned started. Calls and messages from relatives, all with the purpose of letting me know that these things happen and that I shouldn't hold it against him. I talked to my mother and found out that what he told her and a few other relatives, including his parents, was that I got jealous because he accidentally showed interest in the boss's daughter but never planned to act on it. This caused almost everyone but his mother to side with him, while his mother called me to apologize, saying she was ashamed of what her son had said. I had originally told my husband I wouldn't blow this out of proportion, but I ended up telling my mother and his parents, the former of whom responded exactly as I thought she would. She told me it's not like he acted on it, and that this much is nothing to ruin a marriage over. This didn't surprise me, since when one of my aunts got cheated on, she and her other sister had essentially taken the stance of, just forgive it and ignore it. Move on and don't bring it up. Things will be happy. My mother. And I had a huge back and forth where she brought up family reputation, embarrassment if the family finds out what he did, and embarrassment if I'm a divorcee in my 30s. Yeah, that's a thing here, sadly. And yeah, 29 is still reaching 30s. We ended the call on pretty bad terms, but it was expected. The family is more or less on the same stance, with only some choosing to stay away. And even now, when I ended up sharing the exact reason with a few members, they responded, let it go and fix the relationship, or something akin to that. The pleasant surprise came from telling his parents, though, who took my side. After things blew up, his mother apologized to me, telling me she was ashamed of what her son did, while his father told me he would make sure my husband wouldn't cause any issues for me. In the divorce, or in general, I was honestly expecting them to take his side like my family, so this was a welcome surprise. Yesterday, the team was called into the boss's office, along with some police. I don't know what was said and done, but they were in there for a long time, and by the time they all left, they just looked defeated, especially my husband. It seems she did exactly what she said she'd do, and fired them. I don't know the specifics of it, and I don't necessarily intend to ask either. As for me personally, it's been rough. It's easy to get angry when everything is happening. It's the moments when things are calm that memories and feelings get the best of you. But I will be fine. I get to keep my job, which is huge in my opinion. The whole thing with the family isn't getting much better. It got a bit worse after the firing. I have my stuff, and I've moved in with a friend for a few days while I look for a smaller apartment. As for my husband, I don't exactly know, but I assume he'll be moving in with his parents, who are pretty annoyed with him. The apartment we stayed in was something we both contributed to live in, so without income, I can't see him maintaining it at all. Honestly, this is probably it. I don't really see myself making any more updates to this. It's been a mess, but still, I want to thank everyone for the love and support. It really helped a lot. I haven't really thought out the response too well, and might have missed parts of stuff. If I did, I'll try to answer anything I can. But other than that, this might be it. God, this story is messed up on so many levels. This is straight up predatory, calculated and gross as hell. It's so messed up how often this kind of thing probably goes down. These women are just trying to do their jobs, and yet here we are with another story like this popping up in just 2 days. That's wild and honestly pretty depressing. This kind of confession makes you side-eye everyone and wonder how many creeps are just hiding behind a normal mask. Also, the people trying to brush it off like, oh, it's just a crush, are kidding themselves and are part of the problem. There's a huge difference between having a crush and crafting fake sexualized pics of a teenager. That's a whole other kind of twisted conversation. Thank goodness she stepped up, told the girl, dumped his sorry but and didn't pull that victim-blaming nonsense like that other woman. That's the kind of response that actually helps instead of making things worse. I listened to my brother, and I shouldn't have. I met my ex-wife, Kelly, when we were in college, when she asked me for some notes one day. We had been sitting next to each other for weeks, without a word until then. We started dating and got serious pretty quickly, which upset my younger brother, Robert. Robert was about 16 when I started dating Kelly, and you could tell he had a bad crush. She was always nice and took it in stride. After Robert left home and got into college, I let him move in with us. Kelly and I had been together for about 3 years, living together for 2. We all had a good relationship. Kelly started complaining that things were misplaced soon after. One of her earrings would disappear, her panties, sometimes her socks. She was under a ton of stress, changing medications, so we both chalked it up to her ADHD causing issues until one day I caught my brother with a pair of her missing panties. We found everything he stole. We kicked him out, and he went to live with my parents again. He begged for forgiveness and decided to go to therapy. It took about 5 years, but we all decided it was water under the bridge, Kelly included. Robert had a hard life growing up. He said it was all about acting out. In late 2022, I received an anonymous email claiming Kelly was cheating on me. The sender knew dates she was out of town, names of coworkers, and everything. They gave me no photographs, but they knew enough details that I was sure they were telling the truth. Kelly fought me on it, denied it, and begged for marriage counseling, but cheating is a solid deal breaker for me. Robert came to stay with me as my emotional support while Kelly was still there. Kelly asked me multiple times to get him to leave, stating that he was watching her and making her feel uncomfortable, but all I said were things I'd rather not repeat about her not being trustworthy. The day she left last April, she said to me that it was going to turn out to be my pervert brother, and that if it was, she hoped I'd feel every ounce of pain I put her through. My brother has apparently been racked with guilt and confessed last weekend. He told me in front of our parents. I couldn't say anything. I just walked out and went home. I turned my personal phone off, and I've been walking in a daze. I go to work, come home, watch TV, and go to bed. I can't tell you what I've eaten for the past week or what I've watched. My dad came by to talk to me tonight, and he wants me to talk to my brother, tell him that it's going to be okay, and that we can work through it. I turned on my personal phone for the first time to see hundreds of texts from my brother. I just want to reach out to Kelly, beg for forgiveness, and ask her if we can start over. Update. I contacted my ex-wife. I vented on Reddit about finding out that my brother faked that my wife had an affair on a business trip. I'd been in a daze since I found out. I kept reading that everyone said to leave Kelly alone, but I sent her an email to where we had been communicating about little things that popped up, and then I went to bed. I apologized, told her that I know I can't mend things, but that she was right, and that Robert is out of my life, and probably my parents too. I didn't expect an email back, but I received one, and it was massive. It was filled with a lot of personal things that I don't want to repeat. She said she understood the desire to listen to that email, but that she wasn't even able to defend herself, that I just gave her time to get out, and then immediately moved Robert into our home, where she watched him intentionally keep us from communicating as she was forced to leave. She said she would have done anything. Let me talk to her coworkers, check her geo-tracking, but Robert kept a permanent buffer, and I allowed it, belittling and mocking her along with him whenever she attempted to talk to me. She thanked me for the closure on this chapter of her life and wished me the best, but she asked me not to contact her again, ever. After the year and 3 months she said she endured, she isn't the same woman I knew. She asked me to set the record straight with any former mutual acquaintances, but said she honestly never wants to hear from any of them either, and to tell them so. She told me I poisoned that well when I accused her of what I did, and it was the most bitter and isolating experience she's ever dealt with, and that she genuinely feels nothing for anyone in her former life, including me. She also told me cutting out Robert is a great idea, but not to cut him off trying to get her back or even in her good graces, because she is moving overseas on a fiancé visa to try things out with her new fiancé. She said they've only been dating for 8 months, but she's never felt this way about anyone in her life, and that she thinks he might be her soulmate. She told me to learn from my mistakes with her, and to find someone to love more than I loved her. It crushed me to see the word soulmate. She used to tell me all the time she thought I was her soulmate. I called my dad yesterday morning after reading the email, and I told him that I'm not going to comfort Robert. He ended my marriage through lies, made me a liar to all of my friends, and isolated and hurt one of the most loving, loyal people on the planet who tried so many times to help him. My relationship with Robert is over, and I told him that if he has a problem with that, my relationship with him is over too. My dad told me he truly understood how bad it was once I broke it down that way. I'm going to put in a transfer request at work tomorrow. I live on the West Coast, maybe I'll head to the East Coast. I'm going to get a change of scenery, a therapist, and figure myself out. This story is so toxic that it almost sounds made up, and the fact that the truth came out way too late after the damage was done. The brother's whole vibe is so petty and childish. Being so obsessed with controlling someone else's happiness is very manipulative. It's like a gut punch reminder that sometimes the people closest to you, like family, can be the ones who hurt you the most. Also, if I found out my sibling was stealing my partner's socks and underwear to get their kicks, and all of a sudden I get some shady email with zero proof, just a bunch of talk about my partner cheating, yeah, I might be suspicious of my weirdo sibling, and the fact that he didn't even bother with her explanation. Are people really that clueless? My brother-in-law just told my wife he is in love with her. Yesterday, out of the blue, my brother-in-law asked my wife if she could meet him for lunch, saying there was something he needed to talk to her about. My wife told me about it before accepting, and asked if it might have something to do with my sister. Maybe they were having problems, and he wanted to discuss it with another woman. I found it odd but told her to go find out. So she accepted, and they met for lunch at a place near her office the next day. That's where he told her that he is in love with her. He laid it on thick. How beautiful she is, how she makes him feel, how he would treat her if she were his, how it was love at first sight, blah blah blah. Mind you, this man is married to my sister and has 2 kids. He and my wife had a friendly relationship. Our families see each other often, as we are a close family. He does text her frequently, but there was nothing overly sexual. My brother-in-law texts and calls my mom too, so none of us thought anything of it. I want to stop a moment and emphasize that my wife isn't cheating on me with him. My wife and I share an iPad, and I see every one of her texts from there. We also look at each other's phones all the time, so none of that is going on. She didn't let him finish, walked out, and called me immediately to tell me what happened. While she was on the phone with me, the texts from him started. He didn't mean it, he thinks it's only infatuation, blah blah blah. She left work early to come home to talk to me about this, and her phone was blowing up the entire time with calls and texts from him. I told her to answer, and she put him on speaker so I could hear. He was crying, begging her not to tell my sister. Apparently, when we were together this past weekend, he thought she was flirting with him, and that they had a moment when they were alone in our kitchen. Now, my wife is a major ball buster, and I suppose I can see how that could be taken as flirting. He asked if she had told me, to which I answered yes, as I was on speaker. Then he started begging me. This went on for a while. My main question was whether he had cheated on my sister before. He said no, swore on his kids' lives. It's just my wife, he said, and that I should understand. I was done listening at that point, and told him I wasn't going to do anything tonight, and would call him tomorrow. That's where we are right now, and I really don't know what to do. My wife says to drive over there right now, and tell my sister, but the idea of wrecking my sister's family is killing me. Thinking about what it will do to my nieces makes me want to vomit. I know the right thing to do is to tell my sister, but I'm also thinking about my wife. It's not her fault, but there is sure to be resentment toward her from my family. Even if my sister doesn't divorce him, and they reconcile, I can't see how we are ever together again like we were before, if at all. This whole episode could tear my family apart. I don't give a shit about him. He tried to destroy my family, but I do care about everyone else. I don't know what to do. Any advice will help. Update. Everyone who told me last night that I couldn't wait to tell my sister was right. A little after midnight, I got a call from my sister saying that she had to tell me that my wife had tried to begin an affair with her husband, so he tried to pin it on her. I told her that's not the case, and that I'd be right over. I got on the phone, woke my mother and father, told them what was going on, woke my younger brother and told him. My mom and dad headed to my sister's to sit with their kids, and my brother came to our house to sit with my wife, and I headed over. My sister was out on the front porch with my brother-in-law when we got there. He looked beaten. He knew we had texts and voicemails. I really don't know what he was hoping to accomplish. My wife gave my sister her phone. She saw the texts, listened to the voicemails, and he started sobbing before she could say anything. My brother-in-law is a firefighter, a big, tough guy, so this was a scene. My sister is pretty tough. She told him to stop it, pack a bag and go. She couldn't stand to look at him. There was more begging, but she had no patience for it. My sister walked off to talk with my wife. I saw them hugging, so at least I felt like they were okay. They've actually been friends since college. I met my wife through my sister, so they're tight. The thought of this wrecking her friendship had been weighing on me. This left me with my brother-in-law. He was broken, so I felt more sympathy than anger. He said he was sorry, he just couldn't help it. It's not hard to fall in love with my wife, so I get it, but damn, man. He eventually picked himself up and left. We were there all night. My sister started asking my wife why her husband would think any of this would work out. He had to have some reason to believe that she felt the same way. My sister said they hadn't been having problems. Everything was as it had always been. My wife was crying at this point, and said there's nothing my sister hadn't seen. She gave my sister her phone again, and they read every text ever sent over the past 2 years. Nothing there. My wife was just herself. She has a playful personality, and so does my brother-in-law, so they teased each other. She does the same with my mom and younger brother as well. The only thing she could think of was the moment in the kitchen this past weekend that he referenced. They both went for the fridge at the same time, and they playfully jostled for who would get there first. He let her win, but reached around her waist to get a beer slowly, and she did feel the way he did it was a little inappropriate. She said she should have called him on it, but didn't want to make it a big thing. She feels maybe the fact that she didn't give him hope. My sister doesn't blame her, so at least that's good. Then my sister started going through his MacBook to see what else she didn't know about. She was angry and frantic at this point. She guessed the password, started searching, and found a lot of pictures of my wife on that computer. They went back years and always focused on just her. We had gone as couples to the Caribbean a few years earlier. My wife wore a bikini, she usually doesn't, but since it was adults only, she did. There were probably 50 pictures of her in that bathing suit. So he's been secretly snapping these for years. Does this now enter restraining order territory? This has taken a creepy turn. I'll update when I have more. Update. I've shared with my wife many of your comments. It makes her feel better that virtually everyone here holds her blameless. It makes her feel better, so thank you. Unfortunately, the mess continues. My sister agreed to talk to her husband last night and let him explain. She put my wife on FaceTime during this conversation, so there would be no lying. I was listening in as well, off camera. My sister was also recording the whole thing. He admitted he's been obsessed with my wife for years. It started the day he met her. My wife and I were dating at the time, but he met my wife before he met me. Like I said, my wife and sister are longtime friends, and my sister wanted to introduce her boyfriend to her friends. He thought it was only physical for a while, but over time, he knew it was more. My sister nearly kicked him out right there, but listened a little more, and she eventually asked what made him think that my wife would leave me for him. He answered that there was obviously mutual attraction, and he figured it would begin as an affair, and then things would progress from there. My wife and sister exploded at that point. A lot of cussing, a lot of screaming. The phone call was over. My wife hung up because, at this point, she was concerned for me. She was shaken and distraught, assuring me the attraction was one-sided. I never thought it wasn't. Even if she did find him physically attractive, I know she would never act on it. She's just not the type. Early on in our relationship, she caught me admiring her as she was dressing. Asked if I liked what I saw, then her face turned cold, and she told me never to fuck up or I'd never see it again. She meant it. She's serious about trust. Anyway, I knew my brother-in-law was a little cocky, but my God, I never knew he thought that highly of himself to be able to pull off something like this. I talked to my sister later on, and she is contacting the lawyer on Monday to see what steps she can take to limit his exposure to her kids. As far as she is concerned, he is detached from reality. That's all I have for now. I'll update once the dust settles a bit. Final update. This is likely to be my final update, as I don't see much more happening after this besides divorce proceedings. Thanks for all the comments. They have helped my wife some with the guilt. The lawyer told my sister that since my brother-in-law's behavior over the past few days has been documented, there is a good chance she will be granted full custody. He doesn't seem to want to fight her on that. My sister will be fine. Any love she had for him is gone, and she doesn't seem too broken up about it. The kids don't know what happened yet, but my brother-in-law was never around much anyway when the kids were home. He slept at the fire station many nights and put in a lot of overtime. But it is certain to be hard on them once they know what's going to happen. Many commenters have said that there must be more women, but as far as we can tell, there hasn't been. It's really just the obsession with my wife. She has blocked his phone, but on the same night he returned home, he sent my wife an email from an account he just made. It started with an apology, but then took a turn. He said he never got to finish at the restaurant that day. Then he went on for paragraphs and paragraphs about all the things he loves about my wife, and the desperation he felt that led him to do what he did. He mentioned their mutual attraction again, and the sexual tension that he always felt was between them. And he ended with a rather large section about me. Let's just say I didn't know he had such a low opinion of me. He was quite certain that I was not satisfying my wife properly. We sent the email to my sister, and it will go to the lawyer. It might be enough to get him removed from the house. My wife isn't great, but she is doing better every day. She does blame herself for being too comfortable around my brother-in-law. She is always careful to set boundaries with other men. In case you haven't figured it out already, my wife is pretty stunning and gets a lot of male attention. But with my brother-in-law, she felt safe to be herself since he was family. Surely no lines would be crossed. She and my sister are cool, and there doesn't appear to be any resentment, so that makes me happy. We will all be okay, it will just take time. Thanks to all who commented and voiced their support. This entire story is a total mess. It's messy, it's gross, and it just breaks your heart. What makes it even worse is that this wasn't some quick crush that would probably fizzle out. This dude's behavior went full-on unhinged. That kind of entitlement to someone else's partner is straight up disturbing. The annoying part is that since the obsession comes from within the family, not from some random stranger, it makes it so much harder to handle because you can't just ghost them without the whole family imploding. What a nightmare. My boyfriend's sister is obsessed with him. My boyfriend and I have been dating for a little over 3 years now. He has one sister who is 25 years old. This sister, I feel, is a little obsessed with my boyfriend, her brother. I was blinded by it at the start of our relationship, but gradually over the last year, it's really been showing more and more. She will do things such as call him over and over 5 to 6 times in a row, along with 5 to 6 texts if he doesn't answer his phone. We'll be doing things like hanging out with friends or being on a date, and she will do this just to see what he is doing. Anytime we go somewhere, she has to know where he is going, what he is doing, who he will be with, what time he will be home, etc. A couple of weeks ago, she came into his room while we were lying in bed watching a show and referred to him as my love just to tell him his phone was going to die. My love, your phone is going to die, she said. On another occasion, she came into his room and petted his chest. His shirt was off as she was sitting down. Super unnecessary. She had his location, and would watch it like a hawk 24/7. She would sometimes just show up where we were without saying anything before coming. I have a sister that we occasionally hang out with, and while hanging out with her, my boyfriend will get texts from either his sister or her boyfriend saying, "Thanks for cheating on us," or "Thanks for the invite," just really immature stuff like that. Last Thursday, we were driving home from the store, and she and her boyfriend conveniently showed up on the same road at the same time. When we ignored them driving next to us, it made her mad, so they sped past us, and she flipped us off out the window. My boyfriend started a new job back in April, which made him extremely exhausted and tired, so he didn't really talk to her or anyone else, which made her freak out, thinking he was so mad at her. She went and complained to their mom about it, which then resulted in the mom asking me about it like I had something to do with it. I didn't. I've expressed my concerns to my boyfriend, and he has seen the problem, but has a rough time saying anything to her because then she will get overdramatic and freak out again. He just recently stopped sharing his location with her, and she is pissed about it and keeps requesting his location. On the 4th of July, my boyfriend had gotten really drunk, so I drove him home, and the second we walked into the house, she was quick to run out of the bathroom and take over taking care of him, even though I had it and am perfectly capable of taking care of him. I just feel like she feels threatened and is low-key obsessed with her younger brother, and I don't know what to do. There are many other things that happened that I could never fit into this whole post. Advice? Update. First off, the good news. We're still together, and now we're engaged. Back in October, shortly after my original post, his sister finally moved out. That was amazing, and things calmed down for a while. Honestly, I've blocked out some of what happened, but there are a few major events I remember clearly. At the beginning of this year, my fiancé and I were looking to buy a house about 35 to 45 minutes from our hometown. When we told his parents, his mom completely shut down and was obviously upset. She tried to list every reason why we shouldn't do it, but I had answers for everything. Still, she acted like a child for days, barely talking, and when she did, it was to criticize the idea. In the end, we didn't buy the house, partly due to her lack of support and partly for work-related reasons. Things stayed relatively calm for a couple more months, aside from the usual requests for his location. My fiancé and I have had many long, serious talks about his family, and we've chosen each other every time. He sees the issues now and has cut his sister off. Since we still live with his parents until our wedding next year, he'll say hello if she's around, but that's it. The final straw happened in April. Around 1 a.m. on a Friday night, I started getting multiple no-caller ID calls. I didn't answer at first, but then my fiancé started getting them too. So we picked up. On the line were a couple of girls claiming they had been with my fiancé the night before and the week before sleeping with him. They were trying to convince me he was cheating. I knew immediately it was a lie. We recognized the voice. It was his sister and one of her friends. They called 15 to 20 times, kept changing their story, and couldn't keep the details straight. We finally confronted them by name and told them to stop. I was furious and got on the phone telling her, "This is why we don't talk to you anymore. You need to grow up. You're almost 30. My fiancé told his parents about the prank calls, but they denied that she would ever do something like that. A few days later, she admitted it to him, laughed it off, and called it a joke. She didn't care and never apologized. That was the moment he completely cut her off. His mom didn't help matters. She ended up yelling at my fiancé, saying I was the new variable ruining the family. Then, at the end of April, it was his sister's birthday. We had already decided not to attend the family dinner because it was also my mom's birthday, and we were going to her celebration instead. During my mom's dinner, his mom sent him multiple texts saying she was disappointed and that he broke her heart by not choosing her. When he didn't respond, his dad texted, "When you come home, don't bring your woman with you." My fiancé went home to talk to them while I stayed at my parents' house. In the front yard, his dad lectured him about how blood is thicker than water, and no one should come before your blood family. My fiancé asked if his mom came first in his dad's life, and his dad said no, which honestly blew my mind. Fast forward to June. His mom insisted we have a face-to-face family meeting. It was awful. I confronted his sister directly, but she had nothing to say, so most of the conversation ended up being between me and her fiancé. My fiancé did defend me, so I wasn't entirely on my own. Since that day, there's been no further drama. His sister remains cut off from our lives. We're happy, we're planning to move out as soon as possible, and we're looking forward to our wedding. Now, this one is disturbing in a totally different way. It's one thing when a coworker or an ex gets obsessed, but your own sibling? That's very unsettling. The prank calls, the drama, the constant boundary crossing. It's almost like she couldn't accept that he wasn't hers. Honestly, as someone with 3 sisters, this is definitely not sibling love. It's more like an obsession that never got checked. He probably just assumed it was normal until she started pointing things out. The parents are a little weird too. And that's it for today's batch of unhinged Reddit confessions and stories. Honestly, some of these had me questioning if people are just trolling, or if they're actually out there living like this. Either way, they're messy, chaotic, and entertaining in the worst possible way. If you've ever stumbled on an unhinged post that made you stop and reread it 3 times, drop it in the comments. I might use it in a future video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.